18 ancient stories, man proposes, heaven disposes. These 18 stories will reveal the secrets to success that those who have already achieved it often choose not to share with others. Story 1: The Art of Letting Go. On a high mountain peak stood an ancient temple where an elderly monk and his young disciple practiced their spiritual teachings. One day, the temple ran out of lamp oil, so the master asked the young disciple to go down the mountain and fetch more. The disciple quickly took a bowl and carefully carried it down the mountain, constantly watching the oil, afraid it would spill. Yet, by the time he returned to the temple, the oil had nearly halved. Seeing the disappointment on his disciple's face, the monk smiled and gently said, "This time, focus on the path and don't worry about the bowl of oil." Following his master's advice, the young disciple concentrated on the journey, unafraid of spills. Miraculously, this time, he returned with a full bowl of oil. This story imparts a valuable lesson: what you don't strive for often comes on its own. When we become overly anxious about gains and losses, our minds tend to tense up, losing clarity and ultimately making our actions less effective. However, when we learn to let go and focus on the task without attachment, everything becomes easier and more successful. Living in harmony with nature, without forcing outcomes, is a profound state of wisdom. Everything in life is already destined, and things will come when the time is right. As the saying goes, if you purposefully plant flowers, they may not bloom, but if you plant willows without intent, they grow into a forest. A calm mind is the key to seeing things clearly, free from concerns over uncontrollable matters. Thus, knowing when to let go is a way to live freely and comfortably, to achieve without striving, and to embrace the wisdom of going with the flow. Story 2: Live like a turtle or a crab. In a bustling marketplace, a vendor displayed 2 large bamboo baskets. One was securely covered, while the other was left completely open. When people looked into the open basket, they saw crabs scrambling over each other, all trying to escape. Yet, every time one neared the top, it would be dragged down by the others, leaving none able to get out. When the vendor opened the lid of the second basket, it was filled with layers of turtles. The vendor explained that the turtles had a united spirit. The smallest ones climbed up first, followed by the larger ones, each using the turtle below to reach the top. This turtle basket had to be tightly covered, otherwise, all the turtles would eventually escape. The largest turtle at the bottom had no chance to climb out, yet it calmly supported the others, without resentment. This story imparts a profound lesson. Faced with the same situation of confinement, the crabs competed and pulled each other down, resulting in none of them escaping. The turtles, on the other hand, succeeded through cooperation, with each having a chance to climb out. The lesson here goes beyond sacrifice to mutual support. As humans, often considered the spirit of all beings, we too should live with empathy, free from jealousy or rivalry. Another's success can also be seen as our own. This story reminds us that living kindly, sacrificing for others, is the way to create true value and give meaning to life, so we may never feel ashamed, even compared to humble creatures like turtles. Story 3: Rising from Nothing. Once, an educator met with a renowned entrepreneur who shared his rising from nothing story. The businessman said, "I started from zero. My family wasn't wealthy. I had to cover my own school expenses from a young age, and no one gave me anything. Through hard work and constant effort, I built my own career." After listening, the educator asked, "Are you sure you accomplished everything without anyone's help?" The entrepreneur replied, "Yes, I created it all by myself." The educator smiled gently and continued, "Then who gave you this life? Who endowed you with intellect and talent? When you were young, who nurtured, taught, and supported you in your first steps? Who provided you with opportunities, trusted you with your first job, or bought your products, helping your company grow?" The entrepreneur fell silent, realizing for the first time that his life was shaped not only by his personal efforts, but also by the blessings from family, society, and those around him. Through this, he learned a valuable lesson about gratitude and the significance of companions on the path to success. Story 4. What is the hardest thing to attain in life? 3 monks once gathered to discuss the question, what is the hardest thing to attain in life? The first monk said, I believe the hardest thing to attain is eternal youth, health, and longevity. Even with wealth, if one becomes old and sick, can they truly enjoy life? The second monk responded, in my view, the hardest thing to find is a true friend. Even with high status and power, life would be lonely without a confidant to share joy and sorrow, like a beautiful flower without fragrance. The third monk added, to me, the hardest thing is having a harmonious family. Even with good health and loyal friends, life is unsettling if relatives are at odds, constantly arguing. It's like living in a personal hell. Hearing this discussion, the Buddha smiled and decided to share a story with them. On a beautiful day, with green plants and a gentle autumn breeze, he began, what is the hardest thing to attain in life? It's not longevity, friendship, or family harmony, but rather, it is the rare gift of a human life. I'll share a story to clarify. In the Mediterranean Sea, there lives a blind turtle that has existed for countless ages. Once every 100 years, it rises to the surface of the sea. Floating on this sea is a small wooden log with a tiny hole. The chance for the blind turtle to emerge just as it encounters the log with the hole is nearly impossible. Yet, for a soul drifting through the cycle of rebirth, attaining a human life is even rarer than the blind turtle finding that log. The number of beings reborn as humans is as small as the amount of soil in your palm, while those who are not human are as plentiful as all the soil on the earth. He continued, the hardest thing is this human life. Once it is lost, it may take eons to regain. Therefore, we must cherish life and this human form. Humans are born with empty hands, and when we leave, we take nothing except the karma we've created. The most precious thing isn't fame or wealth, but the opportunity to cultivate kindness and virtue. Live mindfully, avoid delusion, and treasure every moment, for this is the true purpose of a human life. Story 5. Life and the Law of Karma. Long ago, in the land of Dongcheng, there was an elderly man named Tran the Tam, famous for his mastery in astrology. He could predict people's fortunes, foresee the future, and accurately interpret omens. One day, a man named Feng came from the capital to Dongcheng, hoping to be appointed as an official, but despite years of effort, he had not succeeded. Hearing of Mr. Tran's reputation, Feng sought him out for a reading. Mr. Tran examined the signs and said with a smile, this year, you seek but will not obtain. However, next year, without seeking, success will come on its own. Feng doubted this, yet the prediction came true exactly as Mr. Tran had said. The following year, Feng passed the examination and was appointed as an official in Bingguan. Remembering Mr. Tran's words, Feng visited him again to ask about his career path. The elder advised, continue your work without worry about accumulating wealth. Collect what comes your way freely, and return to see me when your term ends. Following this advice, Feng used his first term to gather wealth without incident. By the end, he had amassed a significant fortune and was promoted to oversee the collection of taxes for the capital. When he arrived, Feng visited Mr. Tran again, who predicted he would be promoted within 3 days, which came true. The elder then advised Feng to do good and avoid greed in his new role. At first, Feng obeyed, but old habits of greed resurfaced, leading to his dismissal for corruption. Overwhelmed with shame, he returned to Mr. Tran to understand his fate. Mr. Tran explained, in a previous life, you were a wealthy merchant with much unused wealth. In this life, you became an official only to reclaim what was yours. However, the people here owe you nothing. Why take more than you deserve? This story reminds us that each person's fate may already be set, and both wealth and hardship are rooted in past karma. Mr. Tran showed that living in harmony with nature and doing good is the path to long-lasting happiness. Striving for excess leads only to downfall and suffering. Story 6. Why do good people suffer? One day, a young man, troubled by his thoughts, went to a Zen master to ask, "Master, why must good people like me endure so much suffering, while evil people seem to live in peace and comfort?" The Zen master smiled gently and said, "If pain remains in your heart, it means there are still negative feelings within you. When one's heart is truly free from negative thoughts, suffering ceases. So, if you feel suffering, it may be due to some hidden negative emotions within you." The young man grew frustrated. "How can I be a bad person? I always strive to live well." The master replied, "If your heart were completely free of negativity, there would be no suffering. Your pain is a signal. Let me tell you about some unseen things that might be causing you distress." The young man began to share his hardships, his low income, cramped living conditions, and health issues that made him unhappy. He also felt resentful that less educated people earned more money than he did. Regarding his family, he was frustrated that they wouldn't listen to him. After listening, the Zen master smiled, "You have enough income to support your family and a place to live, but because of material desire, you feel deprived. This desire is a form of negativity. If you let it go, your suffering will lessen. As for those who earn more despite less education, you may be feeling envy. Remember, wealth doesn't always come from education, it often results from past efforts. And with your family, if you feel resentment because they don't listen, it shows a lack of tolerance. Even though they're your loved ones, they have their own thoughts. Why should you force them to think like you?" This lack of tolerance is another form of negativity. The master continued, "Happiness doesn't come from material wealth, but from one's attitude toward life. When others experience good fortune, celebrate with them. When they lose something, don't feel pleased. That is the mark of a truly good person. Pride, from believing oneself superior to others, hinders growth. Humility is the key to happiness. Only by living with sincerity and without demands can one be free from suffering. A heart that is open can dispel all pain." The young man was moved and fell silent, realizing the negative feelings within himself he hadn't noticed. Bowing in gratitude, he said, "Thank you, Master. Now I understand the negativity that resides in my heart." When we experience suffering, it is a call to reflect on our own hearts. Only when we clear our hearts of negativity can we find true peace. Story 7. How many stars are in the sky? During the Warring States period, there was a legend about a 7-year-old boy named Hang Thak, who left even Confucius bowing to him as a teacher. The story begins when Confucius, renowned for his wisdom and his many disciples, heard of a land famous for its intelligence and eagerness to learn. Curious, Confucius and his disciples decided to visit. On the way, they encountered a group of children playing, with one boy standing firmly in the middle of the road. Confucius asked, "Why don't you step aside to let us pass?" The boy calmly replied, "I'm building a city. Would you destroy my city?" Amused by the boy's cleverness, Confucius got down from his carriage to investigate further. Hang Thak, with his confidence and intelligence, continued to impress Confucius. Confucius proposed, "Do you dare to compete in a battle of wits with me? If I lose, I'll bow to you as my teacher." Hang Thak agreed, and Confucius posed his first question, How many stars are in the sky? Hang Thak calmly replied, the sky is immeasurable, and the earth is too vast to count. It was now Hang Thak's turn. Why do geese and ducks float on water, while pine trees stay green all year? Confucius responded that geese and ducks float because of their square feet, and pines stay green due to their strong core. Hang Thak swiftly countered, the turtle floats even though its feet aren't square, and bamboo stays green without needing a firm core. Confucius slowly realized he was being outwitted by the young boy's wisdom. In the end, Confucius had to bow to Hang Thak as his teacher. The story of this brilliant prodigy spread for generations. Although Hang Thak's life was short, his intelligence and sharp mind earned him respect and admiration. This story teaches us that a wise person listens and learns from everyone, regardless of age or status. Only with an open, humble heart can we continue advancing in life and knowledge. Story 8. Don't pour water into your shoes. Long ago, in a small village, there was a young scholar named Min, known for his talent and learning. After passing his first exam, Min was determined to continue and become an official, but despite his efforts, he failed 3 times in a row. Frustrated, he began complaining about his fate, blaming the heavens, and feeling that his years of study had been in vain. Concerned, his family took him to see a wise teacher in hopes of restoring his spirits. When Min met the teacher, he immediately poured out his woes. The teacher listened in silence, then, without a word, took a scoop of water and poured it directly into Min's shoes. Startled, Min asked, "Why did you do that?" The teacher only smiled and told him to go home and think about it. The next day, Min returned, grumbling about how the bumpy road and his wet shoes made the walk miserable. At this, the teacher said, "The path is already hard, but by complaining, you make it even heavier. Isn't that like pouring water into your own shoes?" At these words, Min suddenly understood. From then on, he stopped complaining and dedicated himself wholeheartedly to his studies. The following year, Min passed his exams, achieving his dream of becoming an official. This story reminds us that stopping to complain only makes the journey harder. Life has its ups and downs, but as long as we keep our faith and persist, every hardship becomes a lesson that helps us move forward. Story 9. The Value of Happiness. An angel, while on a mission, stopped in a peaceful place to rest. When he woke up, he was shocked to find his wings had vanished. Left with no other option, the angel had to beg for food and wandered aimlessly, suffering hunger and cold like any mortal. One day, he met a shepherd and shared his story. Sympathetic, the shepherd gave him food and clothes, but added a condition: if the angel wanted to stay longer, he'd have to help with the sheep. The angel agreed and began his new work, helping the shepherd care for and groom the flock. Day by day, he collected stray sheep wool, meticulously gathering it until he had enough to form a new pair of wings. Finally, when his wings were complete, he put them on and rose back into the sky. Grateful to the shepherd, the angel said, "Now you may make any wish, and I will help you fulfill it." The shepherd's first wish was for 100 more sheep. Instantly, his flock grew as he'd hoped. However, managing the additional sheep made him more exhausted and tied to his work than before. After a while, he wished to trade the flock for a fine house, and when the angel granted it, a beautiful house appeared near the pasture. Yet, living in this new home didn't bring him lasting happiness as he had expected. Next, he wished for a horse to explore freely, but after acquiring it, he found no joy in traveling. Finally, the shepherd said to the angel, "All the things I've wished for haven't made me as happy as I thought they would. Instead, I feel even more burdened." The angel smiled and replied, "Would you like one final wish?" The shepherd thought for a moment and answered, "I've realized that true happiness comes from feeling content within, not from external gains." The most precious thing I have is the ability to feel enough. So, I don't need anything more. The story of the shepherd reminds us that real wealth doesn't lie in material things, but in the ability to find happiness in the present moment. Each of us possesses priceless treasures, inner peace, and contentment. To live fully, we must let go of endless comparisons and desires, instead embracing gratitude and love for what we already have. Only then can we truly be free and happy, unbound by external possessions. Story 10, A Life Lesson from the Cotton Quilt. In a humble mountain temple, there was an enthusiastic young monk who often felt discouraged. One day, he complained to his master that the villagers rarely supported him when he went down the mountain to seek alms, leading him to doubt whether his dream of building a grand temple could ever become a reality. Hearing this, the master simply asked, "It's cold outside. Do you feel cold?" When the young monk replied yes, the master advised him to go to bed early. After lying under his blanket for a while, the master asked, "Do you feel warm now?" The monk nodded, acknowledging that he had warmed up the blanket himself. The master gently explained, "We are like this cotton quilt. Only when we give our full heart and patience to others does the quilt gradually become warm." From that day on, the young monk's perspective changed. Though he still encountered criticism, he didn't lose heart. Instead, he persevered with kindness toward everyone. Over time, the small temple became well known and filled with visitors, and the once young monk grew into a respected abbot. This story reminds us that, like a quilt needing warmth, people need persistence and love to spread goodness to others. If we treat others well, they, in turn, will treat us kindly. And it's only through genuine sincerity and love that we can find true happiness. Story 11, The Power of Understanding and Freedom. Once upon a time, Master Long Tam was renowned for his profound wisdom and simple lifestyle. Though he owned little in terms of material wealth, he attracted many powerful individuals seeking his teachings, including the Empress herself. One day, in great respect, the Empress gifted Master Long Tam a precious golden bowl, replacing his simple porcelain one. On his way back, Master Long Tam stopped to rest in a dilapidated temple, unaware that a thief had been secretly following him with the intent of stealing the golden bowl. The thief patiently waited until Master Long Tam fell asleep to make his move. But just as he finished his meal, Master Long Tam threw the golden bowl out of the window toward the spot where the thief was hiding. Surprised, the thief stepped out and asked, "Do you not realize how valuable this bowl is?" Master Long Tam smiled and replied, "After understanding the truth of life, material things hold no meaning for me. If you want it, take it, consider it my gift to you." Hearing this, the thief was astonished and asked about the truth that Master Long Tam had realized. The master explained that everyone comes into the world empty-handed and that all possessions are temporary, acquired from others. He then advised the thief, "If you take something from someone, consider their feelings as well." Encouraged by this, the thief promised to try for 10 days. During those 10 days, each time he attempted to steal, he thought of the owner's feelings of loss, which stopped him from going through with his plans. When he returned to Master Long Tam, the thief said, "Thanks to your teaching, my life has changed. I've never felt this free and peaceful. Now I understand why you said that understanding the truth is the most precious thing." Master Long Tam smiled, "When you came to me, I hoped to reach you through compassion. And in the end, you have found freedom within yourself." This story of Master Long Tam's deep compassion and transformative understanding helped the thief find peace and conveys the message that true value in life lies in understanding and compassion. Story 12, The Transformative Power of Compassion. Zen Master Liang Quan lived simply at the base of a mountain, dedicating his life to spreading the teachings of Buddhism. One night, upon returning from a meditative walk, he found a thief rummaging through his small straw hut, unable to find anything valuable. Not wanting the thief to leave empty-handed, Master Liang Quan removed his outer robe and offered it to him, saying, "It's cold tonight. Take my robe to keep warm as you go down the mountain." Ashamed, the thief bowed his head and quickly ran away. A few days later, the master found the robe neatly folded at his doorstep, showing that his act of kindness had touched the thief's heart. Similarly, another time, Monk Shirley was confronted by a robber in his meditation hall who demanded money, threatening to kill him if he resisted. Instead of panicking, the monk calmly told the robber to help himself, but to leave enough for him to buy rice the next day. As the robber was about to leave, the monk added, "When you receive something from others, it's polite to say thank you." Embarrassed, the robber mumbled his thanks and left. Later, when the robber was caught by the authorities, he returned to bow an apology before Monk Shirley, pleading to become his disciple. After 3 days of kneeling at the temple gate in sincere repentance, the monk accepted him. Ultimately, the robber was transformed by the monk's tolerance and compassion. These stories vividly illustrate the power of compassion and serve as a reminder that when we treat others with kindness, it can open their hearts and inspire change from within. Story 13: Silence in the Face of Prejudice. During the reign of Emperor Han Wu, Gong Sun Hong was a renowned chancellor known for his strategic prowess. In a discussion with fellow ministers, everyone initially agreed on a common plan. However, just before presenting it to the emperor, Gong Sun Hong came up with an improved idea and decided to modify the plan. This change angered the other ministers, who accused him of deceit, claiming he altered the plan for personal gain. In response to these accusations, Gong Sun Hong remained silent, neither defending nor arguing. Later, when the truth proved his decision to be correct, Emperor Han Wu asked him why he hadn't defended himself. He replied, "Those who understand me believe in my loyalty, while those who do not will see me as disloyal." Gong Sun Hong understood that people with preconceived notions are hard to convince, no matter how much one explains, so he chose to stay silent and let time reveal his integrity. Gong Sun Hong's story teaches us that when faced with misunderstandings or prejudice, sometimes silence and action are the most compelling responses. As the saying goes, the pure remain pure, the impure remain impure. Over time, truth will reveal itself. Story 14: Who is the true winner? The true winner is not the one who uses violence to resolve issues, but the one who possesses tolerance and generosity. The Buddha once shared a story about tolerance, explaining that it is the true mark of a victor. One day, in the city of Jita, the Buddha recounted a debate between the thunder god Indra and the warlike gods, the Asuras. Indra said to the king of the Asuras, "Today, let us resolve our differences not with weapons and bloodshed, but through debate, to see who is truly stronger." The king of the Asuras agreed but asked, "Who will judge us?" Indra replied with a smile, "We are all wise beings, let the other gods be the judges." The king of the Asuras began by arguing, "Only the weak and fearful seek comfort and tolerance." Indra responded, "Tolerance is a noble virtue, surpassing fame and riches." The Asura king laughed, saying that those lacking intelligence must be controlled by strength, like a lazy ox that must be prodded. Indra replied, "On the contrary, tolerance is the remedy for ignorance." If one remains calm in the face of provocation, anger will dissipate on its own. Those who do not harbor resentment find life easier, like a rider who controls a wild horse with a rein. Such people attract good fortune naturally. The gods judged that the Asura king's arguments were rooted in violence, while Indra's words were grounded in tolerance and wisdom. Ultimately, Indra was declared the victor. After telling the story, the Buddha taught, tolerance led Indra to victory. If you can treat all beings with tolerance, you too will be the ultimate victor. Anger cannot resolve conflicts, it only complicates matters, creating unnecessary tension. Remember, tolerance not only helps us resolve conflicts, but also earns the respect of others. Those who live with tolerance are the true victors in life. Story 15: Living with Virtue and Blessings. During the Eastern Han Dynasty, there was a simple and filial man named Sun Zhong who farmed melons. Known for his kindness, he helped travelers without expecting anything in return. One day, 3 young men with noble appearances and an extraordinary aura approached him, asking for melons. Sun Zhong not only gave them melons, but also offered them a meal with great hospitality. Moved by his generosity, the 3 young men revealed themselves to be deities and promised to help shape the fate of Sun Zhong's descendants. When asked, Sun Zhong expressed his wish for his descendants to become emperors. To fulfill this, the deities led him to a sacred place, explaining that if he buried his family members there, the Sun family would thrive. However, there was one condition: Sun Zhong was forbidden from looking back for the first 100 steps down the mountain. Driven by curiosity, Sun Zhong turned to look after only 60 steps and saw the 3 deities transforming into white cranes and flying away. Because of this, it is said that the prosperity of the Sun family lasted only a little less than 60 years. Later, Sun Zhong's grandson, Sun Quan, founded the Eastern Wu Kingdom and became its first emperor. However, the Eastern Wu dynasty faced numerous challenges. Despite having capable leaders like Sun Quan, later generations made mistakes that led to the kingdom's downfall under the Jin dynasty. The lives of Sun Zhong's descendants echoed the blessings he had received, yet also served as a reminder of destiny, showing that even with great fortune, patience and resilience are essential for lasting success. The story of Sun Zhong and the deities emphasizes that life requires humility, patience, and contentment. Great blessings can only endure if descendants cherish and carry forward the values passed down by previous generations. Story 16: What is a True Master? Long ago, there was a renowned general famous for his skill in playing the game of Go. The general took great pride in his abilities and was nearly unmatched. One day, while traveling incognito on a military campaign, he happened upon a small cottage by the roadside. Hanging from the gate was a sign that read, "The best Go player in the land." Feeling challenged, the general entered the house to issue a match. In 3 games, the general won every round, smiling as he remarked, "You should take that sign down." The host simply smiled and saw him off courteously. Some time later, after achieving a brilliant victory on the battlefield, the general passed by the same cottage. Seeing the sign still hanging, he felt annoyed and went in to challenge the host once more. This time, he lost all 3 games. Surprised, the general asked, "Why did you win this time?" The host smiled and replied, "Last time, even though you were disguised, I knew you were the general on your way to battle. I couldn't risk dimming your morale before you went to war. But now, having returned victorious, I no longer need to hold back." The general realized then that a true master doesn't always need to win. The host, a true master, knew when to win and when not to, willing to yield out of kindness and understanding toward others. This story reminds us that in life, true wisdom lies in knowing when to let go and not becoming attached to winning or losing. Intelligence isn't just about cleverness, it includes humility and compassion. Real wisdom isn't measured by degrees or experience, but by the depth of living with 4 things: cultivating inner character, self-awareness without constant reminders, understanding that freedom always comes with responsibility, and kindness toward others. Story 17: Letting Go and Enlightenment. Long ago in ancient India, there was a man who felt disillusioned with a life filled with temptations and troubles, so he turned to Buddhism to seek peace. Although he joined the monastery, his mind remained attached to worldly pleasures, bound by material desires. He still enjoyed fragrances, warm baths, and delicious foods. Though he appeared to be a monk outwardly, his heart was still clinging to attachments, making enlightenment seem distant. At that time, there was a revered monk named Upagupta, known for his profound virtue. The man, now a novice monk, had heard of Upagupta's reputation, so he sought him out and asked for guidance. Upagupta asked, "You want my help, but are you willing to listen and follow my instructions?" The novice monk eagerly agreed. Upagupta replied, "If you truly have faith, first, I'll teach you the way to cultivate spiritual powers, and then I will preach the teachings to you." The novice was thrilled, thinking he was about to learn a miraculous skill. Upagupta led him to a mountain, instructed him in meditation, and then pointed to a large tree, which he transformed with a spell, saying, "Climb this tree." Following the instructions, the monk climbed up, but when he looked down, he saw a dark, bottomless pit below. Upagupta continued, "Now release your legs." The monk shivered with fear but complied. Then Upagupta instructed him to let go of each hand. Terrified, the monk released his grip and fell into the deep pit. In that brief moment, he felt his soul trembling, his body freezing. When he opened his eyes, the monk was astonished to find that there was no tree, no pit, only Upagupta standing before him. Upagupta asked, "When you let go and fell, did you find anything left in life worth clinging to?" The monk replied, "At that moment, I let go of everything. Nothing was left to hold on to." Upagupta then taught, "Exactly. Everything in life is an illusion. Even this body is a mirage, and it too will fade. If you can let go and free yourself from desires, you will find true freedom. Attachment and clinging are the roots of suffering and sorrow. Be mindful, guard your heart, and diligently practice to reach enlightenment." This lesson awakened the monk, who thereafter dedicated himself to his practice and eventually attained the state of arhat. This story reminds us that the line between truth and illusion in life is easily blurred. Many lose themselves in fleeting desires, forgetting the true meaning of life and falling into the pit of suffering. Story 18, A Journey of 1,000 Miles begins with a single step. There's a story of two monks, one wealthy and one poor, living on the border of Sichuan. As they prepared to set out on a pilgrimage to the South Sea to worship the Buddha, the wealthy monk said to the poor monk, "For years, I've planned to rent a boat to go to the South Sea, but I haven't managed to do it yet." "How do you plan to get there?" A year later, the poor monk returned from the South Sea, having completed the pilgrimage with only a water flask and some cold rice. Meanwhile, the wealthy monk still hadn't started his journey, held back by endless preparations and planning. Listening to the poor monk's tale, the wealthy monk felt ashamed, realizing that just talking without action leads nowhere. This story reminds us that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. To achieve success, we can't rely on words alone. We must start with small actions, taking each step with determination and perseverance. A strong will and concrete actions are the keys to reaching success on any path.